Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, where we break down and understand what's happening post-rotation in the rest of the world. Today is a big one. We're looking at some new cards revealed, some tournament results in some regionals that happen, as well as are people being creative enough to be rewarded in post-rotation. Just want to start off by saying thank you so much for the support on the last video. It really means a lot to me. And hello to all the new subscribers because of it. I hope you enjoy the rest of my videos as well as the looking ahead. So without further ado, let's break down and go into it. So the new set reveals some amazing cards, and the link to these translations are down below in the description. We see a return of like an Blastoise Keldeo in the form of Chien Pao and Baxcalibur. Baxcalibur has an amazing ability where you can attach as many basic water energies from your hand to your Pokemon in play, and Chien Pao, when it's in the active spot, can get 2 basic water energies from your deck and put them in your hand with its big attack. Hail Blade does 60 damage times the number of water energy you discard. With utilizing powers like Superior Energy Retrieval and Baxcalibur, Chien Pao can do massive 300 damage in turn after turn. Love this combination, especially as Chien Pao is one of my favorite Pokemon in the new game. The biggest card everyone's talking about is Iona. This is basically if Marnie and N had a child, this is what it is. It's a pseudo shuffle with Marnie, where you shuffle your hand, put it at the bottom of your deck, and then draw the amount of prize cards you have remaining. So it's like N, but without the shuffling in your deck, and Marnie, but drawing the prize card. I really love this card, especially as I grew up playing N. It's nice to see this card come back, and this is showing the comeback mechanic in a way that Pokemon promised us way back in August time. This card is by far the best card, which is going to be revealed for ages. It's so strong, and this will become a 3 to 4 of in nearly every deck. Such a powerful card, and disruption is always key. Our new sort of setup, the 2 prizer is Squawk ability. 160 HP, 1 treat, kind of like what you see, but it's an amazing ability, which isn't an on play, which is very good to know, which is a discard your hand and draw 6, but you can only play this on the first turn of your game, and you can't play more of this 1 per turn. Really, really like this as Dedenne, but only going first, kind of like Battle VIP Pass. It rewards like the player if they kind of play it, especially in the early game, as well as Psych Up, which is 20 damage, but attached to basic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So has a nice setup attack and a really strong ability. These, I think, are the 4 strongest cards in the set. There are some more other cards I want to discuss. Xinglu, the Firefish, has a really good power, which for 2 fire, it does 100 damage, and choose up to 3 of your bench Pokemon and search your deck for basic fire and attach them to each of them. If you team it up with Magma Basin and Attachment, as well as some switching cards, you can get this out really quite early. Turn 1 to 100 damage and do lots of setup. I love this sort of effect. Qinglu is the other sort of tablet one. It kind of has ability lock if the opponent has a damage counters on, but I believe it is except for EX Pokemon. So stopping down Lugia is good, but you're not shutting down cards like Chien Pao, the new one, or even Gardevoir. Kind of a bit of a double-edged sword. So right now it's really strong because we have so many Vs with their abilities. But I think once we get to a EX like Scarlet and Violet on, this can kind of see a bit weak. So it's not as strong as I thought. Then we got some kind of reprints. We have Super Rod. I love this card. Shuffle in Pokemon and Basic Energy from your discard pile. Really, really good recovery card. I'm so happy to see this back. And Charm of Courage is basically Giant Cape. Cape of Toughness, sorry. So it's nice to see some big big basics again, and this can be utilized on stage and basic EXs and non-EXs as well. Really like some of these new cards. Didn't want to talk too much about it because of how much everyone's been talking about them since Friday, and I just want to give my edited highlights. I love this set. Can't wait to be playing with these cards in June. I've already started theorizing in lists, so it's really exciting. So let's obviously look at the city leagues, the big thing everyone always kind of likes the meta breakdown, what's happening in their equivalent of League Cups in Japan. And no surprise, Lost Zone Box and Giratina are the top 2 decks. I think they always flip-flop between each other, which is top. Right now it is regular Lost Zone Box, kind of performing really well because of the new cards like Jet Energy and its continual support in the winning events like the regionals happening over in the Asia Pacific area. We also have Giratina, we also have Mew and Archeops and Lugia, as well as Miraidon and Gardevoir, all about 10 to 12% each. They haven't really changed too much, so it's nice to see that they're still just as powerful. It's nice that it's a bit more round out, but there are only literally 6 best decks, and those are those 6 decks which are always constantly top cutting these big events. Rapid Strike Box does actually come back again. We say goodbye to Arceus Duraludon, but hello to Rapid Strike Box. Just under 2.4%. Kind of fine, like it's doing all right. I did a deck profile about it last week, so if you want to check that out, it is on my channel. And then some random crazy stuff that's happening in the top, like the other 10%, like Darkrai, Shadow Rider, as well as Dialga. So I'm looking forward to talking about them near the end of the video. So again, nothing really too surprising. There are just like 6 decks that everyone is playing and consistently doing well. So it's really helpful for us as like insiders, like outsiders, like knowing, okay, these are the top decks. These are what I should be testing and be prepared against when I go to the biggest tournament like EUIC in just under a month's time. So let's see the ranking. Lost Box and Mew have not changed. They are still the top decks. They're still the number 1 and number 2 spot. Fortunately, I've just seen Gardevoir. It has only gone down by 1 place, not 2. But Giratina is now back in the 3rd place. So we have, again, like a similar position for the top 3. Lost Box and Mew and Giratina, they didn't really lose much. They gained now Jet Energy. Mew gained like reused Featherball. So they kind of stayed the same and some a little bit in innovation, but you can just see Lost Box has just won 9. And even if you include the ones from Giratina, that's 14 total wins, which is over double what Mew has. So Lost Zone is by far the best archetype. Gardevoir is still in there, the top 6. It got 4th place. It got 4 wins and so many other like top 2s, 4s, and top 8. So I really like to see that Gardevoir is now making a case to be, I am one of the top 6 best decks right now, performing well. Arceus, Giratina have made it back in. So Arceus Box, this was always the biggest one, the more favored archetype. And now we're kind of going with Pikachu, similar to what I shared again, and doing pretty well. Not getting many 2nd place, but it got 4th in all the other categories. It's really strong. The Pikachu really helps in your Lost Box. The Giratina helps by KOing everything. And Arceus is a really good setup Pokemon. And Miraidon rounds it up at being the 6th spot. I really like it. It's incredibly powerful still and it hasn't really changed too much. I think it's my favorite deck right now in the post-rotation. I love big basics. I love hitting hard. That's why I think Miraidon is such a good archetype. As you can see, Lugia didn't make the top 6. It actually only got 1 win. Well, technically 2. One is a single strike and one is a rapid strike build. So it didn't actually perform that well going into it, but it had one of the most top 8 placements of a deck. So it's interesting to see that it didn't do well this week, but you never know, next week it could be the number 1 deck. That's why I love about these city leagues. They're always changing, they're always developing. Maybe we might get a new archetype. So I love doing this and kind of showing you all what are the best decks right now and performing well. So like I said, there were some regionals that happened. This is the Thailand one. The link to where I got all them will be in the description below. Unfortunately, I couldn't see many lists that have been revealed, but in this one, Lost Zone Box actually won. And also there were 3 out of the 4 decks in top 4 were in fact Lost Box. Sorry. So it just shows how powerful Lost Zone really have become. And Arceus Giratina did get the 2nd place. Reason why I believe it didn't win, because it don't really have many single prize attackers, where Lost Box kind of does, and they can utilize stuff like Sky Steel Stone to get those 3 prize knockouts. Some other notable categories which have done well. Gardevoir made 2 top 8 sort of placements here. We did see 1 Lugia as well as some more Arceus sort of builds, like one with Delphox, one with the Armaru, so kind of focusing more on fire. I like that build, but I just don't think it's as strong. As you can see, it lost to the actual person who won the tournament. And Dialga made an appearance in top 16. I will discuss a rough list, which could be like it later on today in the video. I really like how it's actually kind of coming back. Like Dialga was always on the fence as a strong contender. And it's definitely one of these decks which can do really well. Definitely a more interesting build, which I'm going to talk later. But I like that it's kind of made into the top 16. Nothing else which is like groundbreakingly a surprise in this sort of breakdown, but nice to see and this is really helpful, especially for us from the outside, to see what's doing well. And unfortunately, Lost Zone did win that one. And then there was another one that happened in Taiwan. And again, similar to the City League, Lost Box did make up a huge amount of the percentage. About 25% of the meta were Lost Zone decks. Gardevoir and Lugia did take the third place with being 12% each. And then nothing also decks like Miraidon and Mew kind of went up to 10%. So we're not really surprised because we know all this because of what's been doing well in the City League. And it seems that it's still been the case that people are still playing the decks they know are performing well into these big events. Nothing big and creative. Arceus plus Tech is about 9%, and Rapid Strike Box is going in the 4%. There were some like random sort of ones which did get into the top in the 14%, but nothing was really noteworthy about it. So unfortunately, this isn't like a big like, oh, this has done really well, this has done really well. Like, this is a surprise. It kind of is what we were expecting. I like to see that the numbers are kind of the same in Japan as well as in Taiwan. So it's not like these big drastic changes. So it's good in that sort of way. But at the same time, you would like some more of a change. But as you have such strong archetypes like Lost Box, like Archeops Lugia, like Gardevoir, you're not really going to see the big change that we might want. And the results for this event did in fact get won by Lost Box. We don't have all the results so far, but yeah, like I said, Lost Box did end up winning, coming second, and a top 8 placement, where Gardevoir AX did manage to get top 4. So that's nice to see that Gardevoir is doing well everywhere around the world as of right now. Some other notable ones, the Mew Palkia, which was very popular by Andrew Mahone and his crew, did make a top 8 placement. So nice to see that that's kind of translated over here, as well as some Lugias in top 8 and an Arceus Tina build getting in the top 16. So yeah, it's just loads of these Lost Zone decks which are doing well. Unfortunately, I think they've won nearly every single event that's happened in this sort of regional sort of era happening in the Taiwan and the Asia area. Unfortunately, it just shows how powerful Lost Zone really has become. And yeah, nothing really to talk about too much. It's Lost Zone Box. We've talked about it incredibly in so much detail. It has now Jet Energy, so it's boosting itself up to be the best deck, and it's single prize. And single prize decks always kind of do well because going into these 2 prize decks, you're utilizing more and more of your resources and losing more if you're a 2 prizer. Whereas Lost Zone, they're going, okay, I've lost 1 prize, but I can use this to get 2 prizes, so it kind of like evens out. So, and they have Sky Steel Stone. So I want to talk now about some fun creativity which has happened in the City Leagues that's happened in Japan. And is it being rewarded? And the answer right now is yes. This Darkrai V-Star ended up winning the tournament. And it was very weird if you look at it right now. 16 Dark Energy, a 3/4 line of Darkrai V-Star. Wait a minute. What's that Luxray doing here? The Luxray is like the Talonflame from Steam Siege, where if it's in your opening hand, put it down to the active Pokemon. So you can cheat its evolution line. And does 50 damage for colorless energy. You search your deck for 2 trainer cards. Really, really powerful. And maybe the setup like Darkrai really needs. You might get the supporter you might need to get, or you need that the Choice Belt, or that Dark Patch, or that Temple of Sinnoh to really slow down the opponent. I like it. And it did end up winning the tournament, but it can fall a bit slow. Like you're going to turn 2, turn 3 to do these big damages, big damage outputs. Whereas by then you might be 2 to 4 prizes down in the meta. It is a 1 prize at Luxray with free retreat, but they're going to focus on the juicy Darkrai's, the juicy Moltres to get those big KOs that way. I like this sort of deck. I do like it, similar to what I talked about in my deck profile a couple weeks ago with Cross Switcher to kind of like get something from the bench and utilizing the item cards. But I don't know. I like the list. I love the creativity. If someone wants to try it out, please let me know in the comments down below if it's good. But yeah, I think it's fun. I'm glad it won. But right now, I can see it could still be a bit slow. But I love Darkrai. It hits relevant weakness. So that's why I think it's doing incredibly well and did well at this tournament. Another fun one that's winning and actually doing pretty well even this week and last week is Shadow Rider, but not running cards with the Gardevoir, which everyone thought it would be. It's using Clefairy so it can slow down the opponent while kind of sitting down to make big Pokemon VMAXs with its Underworld Door, as well as utilizing cards like Boss's Orders and Arvin to get the cards you might need or trap down some of the opponent. Having Path to the Peak and Beach Court is a good combination of stadium. You have Beach Court, so you can bump Path to Peak. You can kind of like play all your abilities you might want, Path to Peak your opponent and try and slow down them that way. Klefki is really good into Lost Zone, but you can also lose because it is dark. If people are attacking against decks like Gardevoir, you can kind of fall under the wayside. But this did win. It got a few top 4s, it got a few top 8s. It's right now it got a few top 8s, even at today of recording. So I like that this deck is kind of performing really well. It could be an underrated pick. It could perform really well, or it could be a 1 week fluke. I like it. I think it's a fun sort of archetype to try out. Everyone always thought this would be the good combo with Gardevoir. So it's nice to see that this list is performing well and doing well in the results. So we're going on to some of the top 4, top 8 sort of placement. And this is the Dialga list, which I believe was similar to the top 16 in the regionals. This one here, utilizing Miraidon as a support Pokemon to get Rotom and Magnemite. Magnemite. Rotom has basically its station. It's the draw 3 cards, your turn ends. But Magnemite evolves into Magnezone, which is look at the top 6 cards, attach as many basic energies to your Pokemon as you like. Really, really strong, especially if you play 22 energies. You try and power up so you can get the turn 2 and V-Star power followed by attacking really hard with its other attack. It's one. So you can kind of get those potentially 4 to 5 prizes really early on in the game. I like it. It's fun. It's kind of like good as well. Like if we're worried about some knockouts, you have Radiant Jirachi with its ability to get any 3 cards you might want, or even its attack to flip 2 coins if both of them are heads, the opponent's knocked out. I like it. It's fun. It's wacky. It's creative. It did get a top 4 and a top 8 and did get a few other placements in the weeks prior, but it wasn't until now, which I thought it was noteworthy to talk about. I like this list. I think it's fun. I think it definitely utilizes Miraidon in the best way possible to get the lightning Pokemon to really power our house this Dialga V-Star list. So yeah, definitely something which could be fun to try out. Another day that could be fun to try out is this Kyogre Groudon list from using the 25th anniversary cards. So we have Cryogonal, which is a really cool attack where you look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach basic energies you like, and then you use Kyogre and Groudon to discard the top 5 cards of your deck. Kyogre does 50 times the amount of energy discard to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, and Groudon does 80 times the amount of energy you discard to the active. So both of them hitting really hard, really strong. You have Basculin and Basculegion. Basculin for attacking for no energies. You have the Ditto, so you can utilize Kyogre and Groudon for in the discard pile, but you run 34 energy. You could literally just mulligan so many times. It's like pre-release level sort of energy cards. Not many item cards. And your support is like Iridus, you can try and get like some switching outs. It kind of is a go hard, go home sort of deck. You hit really hard with it, but you could also completely brick. I have no idea what its top 8 match was or what it had to get as a record to get into top 8, but it's really fun to see this list actually do well. It got a top 8 placement. People will start looking at this, start talking about it, and potentially popularize this deck as a single prize attacking option. So yeah, really fun archetype and definitely something which could be fun to try out now, but I wouldn't really like jump on the gun and think, yes, I'm playing this deck right now. But you can also attack with Greninja, so not bad at all, especially with Lumineon to like loop that. And one of the last ones is this Archeops box, utilizing Omanyte's attack, which you can search your deck for 2 Pokemon that evolve from a fossil and put on the bench. And then the regular package, which you have a normal like Lugia Archeops right now, Single Strike, Tyranitar, and Stonejourner. I like it. It can be a bit slow because you have to go second to really powerhouse and do well. Like if you go first, you're not getting Archeops out until your 3rd turn. And by then, the opponent's really set up. You're not running any special, like any of the fossil Pokemon or any rare candies. So you can't get the Archeops turn 2 if you go first. But this deck is kind of like you want to go second. And you also have cards like Bomber Snow to boost up your HP of your single strike attackers. This deck needs Mana Feed because the Archons are really weak to Greninja. I just don't know. It's a fun archetype. I know people were trying testing out the style list, even in our format last week. It really focuses on Arvin as your way to get the items and tool cards you may need to help in the matchup. I don't know. I am not sold on this list. I think it's really fun and creative. I think it's definitely something which could be seeing some upplay as a way to kind of go away from Lugia. But I think Lugia is just too strong. It's a really good attacker. Yes, I know it's very overused and everyone kind of doesn't like the deck right now because it is so powerful, but it's so powerful for a reason. I think this deck could just be a little bit too slow. It needs so much more to set up than just getting 2 of them in the discard pile, and then turn 2, you're getting any energies you want. But I'm really glad to see the creativity it's kind of shown to get into this top 8 placement. So those are some fun little archetype decks, which I thought needed to be mentioned, kind of talking rough strategies about the lists. But let's look at what's going to happen next week. So looking ahead, will Lost Box ever be countered? I hope it will. Not just Klefki and Pikachu isn't enough to counter this, because it's been like that for 2 months and it hasn't gone away and it's just gotten stronger. So is there going to be another archetype that could be introduced to slow down Lost Box from getting any of these huge dominated wins? We are only a few weeks away from the next big tournament in Japan, so will we see Lost Box continue to dominate there? And the last thing is, can Gardevoir really keep up? It's doing well. It did fall down a little bit of placements compared to last week, but it is still just a really good archetype. It's really strong, attacking with single prize attackers and 2 prize attackers, as well as utilizing Sky Steel Stone. I love Gardevoir. I think it gets stronger with the set, which comes out in April in Japan, June for us. We're utilizing Drifblim. But yeah, I think can't go into next week. I hope we see some Lost Box counters and maybe a new archetype because of the creativity that started to kind of show and kind of like bleed into this week already. So if you're new, thank you for watching and consider subscribing and leaving a like. My name is Charlie TCG. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I will be again back a few days time for some deck profiles and next week for the next looking ahead, and let's see what will happen. I hope you've enjoyed the video and I will see you guys soon. Bye for now.